Welcome to today's episode of Mindful Medicine. I'm your host, Tracie Jones, and I'm here with Dr. Jim Schrenker. Today, we'd like to talk about the sacral chakra. And the mantra or affirmation of that one is, I am aware of my intentions. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we published a book back in 2004 called Everyday Lessons. Everyday Lessons basically takes you through all 7 chakras and gives you, on the opening page, it gives you all the specifics of how to balance those or how to get in tune with those. The sacral chakra is also karmic. When I look at the sacral chakra and I'm trying to think of a catchphrase to pin it down, to distill it into something, I think of karmic relationships. Sacral chakra is all about family. Family that is blood family, family that is work family, family that is any close person that you work with. If you're going to have a sacral chakra imbalance, it's going to come from somebody around you. Now again, nobody can affect you negatively unless you allow it. Nobody can affect you positively unless you allow it. You are your own being. You are capable of being separate from them. You're capable of being a part of that relationship, a part of that thing, but not necessarily intertwined with it. That is your choice. And you could argue that if you're with your spouse for a long time and you've chosen not to be intertwined energetically with them, that's going to be a fairly cold and distant relationship, right? You're going to be roommates. So losing that separation is a natural thing in certain relationships, especially in families, especially with coworkers. You tend to start talking more personal. You tend to do things after work, and that's intertwining that energy. Well, guess what? That gives them carte blanche to affect you in multiple different ways. So when you see irritable bowel syndrome, okay, well, statistically, irritable bowel syndrome is going to be more in young or middle-aged women. Well, guess what? Those are the ones that have the worst relationships with people around them. With their mom that's nagging them, with their mom that wants them to do things, with kids, with whatever. You know, that age group of female is torn in a million different energetic directions, right? You're bound. It's your kid. You got to do it, but he's not acting like a civilized human being. So now it's you. It's you taking on his energy, you or her energy, taking on that energy because, oh my gosh, it's me. I'm the parent. I got to fix it. You know, does that ever stop? I don't know. I mean, my oldest is 28, so it hasn't stopped yet. So I can't imagine it's going to stop when I'm 70. It just gets a little bit different. So that chakra is, that antenna that is there is wide open to that energy of relationships. There's news that you've gotten that has been literally made you nauseated, that literally was a punch in the gut. Well, guess what? That news almost certainly had to do with somebody that was very close to you. Could have also caused palpitations with your heart, could have also caused chest pain. Yeah, the heart chakra is going to be involved, okay? So taking that chakra, linking it to the gut, linking it to those organelles that are in that area, if you have issues with those organs, that's where it's going to be. That's the energy that it's going to be from.
Okay. And even on that chakra, you also pay attention to the right side
or
the left side.
Yeah, right side, left side. So again, right side's masculine, left side's feminine. Diverticulosis is typically left-sided. If you got a flare of diverticulitis, what's that? Well, that's a colonic inflammation of these little pouches that form on the colon. What's inflammation? Anger. Left-sided's female. Colon. The colon itself is all about holding on to ideas. The colon is about holding on to those emotions. And you can choose to let that emotion flow freely through you and have normal issues with your colon. If things flow through you too quickly, it could be diarrhea. Much more common. What if you're holding on to that stuff? And if you're holding on to that stuff, then that's going to be your constipation. That's going to be your bloatiness. That's going to be, so just holding on to those ideas, holding on to that information. And what do I mean by holding on to ideas? In a very simplistic form. What if you feel like you're suppressed, that you can't express yourself? That's holding on to an idea, So it's not your choice necessarily to hold on the idea, although you could argue that it is based on what we've said. But you're feeling forced that you're not being heard in those things, and you got to hold those inside. You're better to be seen than heard. We all heard that as children. So looking at that chakra, looking at the left versus right side, you got your appendix on your right side. Now, is an inflamed appendix ever going to be influenced by a female? I'm sure there probably is, So you can't hold everything to a perfect definition. But yeah, left and right side can mean something with every chakra.
What color is associated with this chakra?
So red is the base chakra. Orange is the sacral chakra. So Roy G. Biv. Balancing the orange chakra, it goes to the note of D, if I remember right. So balancing it with tone would be a D tone, an orange color. In our book Everyday Lessons, as we talked about, we'll go through that. So the orange can be seen rather than worn. If you've ever been in my office, you will find that for the last 20 years, I will wear a color corresponding to the day of the week of the chakra. Whether it's a pin in my pocket, whether it's a tie, whether it's a shirt, whether it's pants, some things that are unseen that I might be wearing. So I will do that. That's more superstitious than anything else, but I try never to go out of the house with that. And then I usually do the affirmation. The affirmation for the sacral chakra is, I understand my relationships and I'm aware of them. And I think that is probably the easiest thing to do to balance that on a daily basis. Is you think about orange, you wear orange, you drink from an orange cup, you have an orange pen. I'm aware of my relationships with other people, understanding that you're still in control, although a lot of times we don't feel we're in control.
Okay. Let's say someone came into your office and they were having a problem. Mm-hmm. And how do you figure out the emotional side? You see the physical side there. Right. It's obviously a gut issue.
Right. So I do this a lot with gut stuff. So, you're talking to them, you have an idea walking in just because you know where the problem is. You know what they're complaining of. You know what chakra. So I already know what kind of line of questioning that I'm going to do. They have no idea that I'm doing this. So we're listening to the heart, listening to lungs, looking in the ears, pushing on the belly, making sure, again, there's nothing more conventionally wrong with them. Asking simple questions. What's your mom up to these days? Or how are you doing? Or how are your kids? Or what's going on? And you ask a couple questions like that and see where they lead you. And inevitably, it'll lead you to the answer, right? So if you let your patients talk long enough, they will tell you what's wrong with them. And that has to be a guided conversation. You can't just let them, when I was 6, and move on to their 50th birthday. But you can ask the right questions, and then you get that. And then it usually leads to something like this, unless I know that these people are metaphysical. And a lot of our patients are, and I can speak freely with them. But if it's just somebody that's relatively new to the practice and I'm trying to feel them out, I'm like, have you ever thought that spiritual or emotional issues could affect your physical health? And that's usually my lead-in line. And from there, you have to be very cognizant of the answer you get. Because if the answer comes back as a fundamental answer with fundamental verbiage, then you're not going to go down that road, because it's just not, it's going to fall on deaf ears. But if they come back and say anything halfway like, yeah, I thought that, I'm like, well, look, your gut is your sacral chakra. It vibrates to the people around you that are closest. So if you're having problems with that, we need to look at work people. We need to look at family people. We need to look at friends. They can be dead or alive. They don't have to be alive to cause a problem. And inevitably, I'm being honest, in 30 years when I've done that, I've never, ever had anybody say, well, no, that's not me. And that's what prompted me to write Mindful Medicine, because as a physician, writing a book talking about energy and talking about how the energetic basis of disease, which was what I first called it 20 years ago, and giving talks on the energetic basis of disease, doing that, you can lose credibility really quickly. You're a kook, right? So part of the emphasis of, or the part of the reason that the book finally came about is I had enough anecdotal situations that supported it. I could talk to somebody that's an engineer, that's an accountant. Those are the farthest people away from spirituality. They work with numbers and figures, and if it doesn't add up, it ain't going to be right, and there's got to be a math equation for it, or it doesn't support it, or whatever. When you talk to somebody like that openly about this, and it hits home, there's something to it. You can go and talk to somebody that is very open and metaphysical, and you'll get all sorts of answers because they're open and they're that, and they want it to be happy. They want it to be true. I don't want anything to be true. I want to find the truth. So over years, I've been principal investigator on 51 pharmaceutical studies. Primary reason I don't want to use pharmaceuticals anymore, right? I've done it. I've been there. I'm a molecular biochemist. I did bench work. I did all that. I studied neurotransmitters. I've studied the thyroid in depth outside of medicine. Before I got into medicine. So there's a reason that we want to balance sex hormones. There's a reason we want to balance thyroid. There's a reason we want to do that. There's a truth in that if you do that, it works. But there's also a truth in the energy. And we've seen it, and everybody's seen it, and everybody knows it, and everybody knows it's there, yet we don't acknowledge it in medicine at all. Only the fringiest of the fringe would acknowledge it. So everybody has gut issues. At some point in your life, you're going to have a gut issue. So is that gut issue, what's the name of that gut issue? Is it your child's name? Is it your spouse's name? Is it a combination? Is it your ex-spouse's name? What are we going to name it? And then what are we going to smile about? What are we going to laugh and go, that's so silly. I just need to get rid of it. And I need to bless it. I'll surround it with the white light of God. I'll send it out the window and I'll be done with it. Oh, wait, it's going to come back in 5 minutes. Right?
Right. But,
the next phone call is going to be them. I just forgave you. Blah, 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 blah. Right? So it just doesn't end because it's a lesson and you have to learn it. You can't just think you learn it. You can't just say you learn it. If you've learned to forgive Amy, we'll make up a name. If you've learned to forgive Amy, then don't you think Amy's going to be a real pain in your butt?
Probably.
Right, because you've already learned to forgive her. So the universe is like, here, you've learned to forgive her. Let's let her do this and see if you really have. Right. And again, it gets back to that forgiveness. It's, I've forgiven you, therefore I've released you. Therefore you can do whatever you want because it isn't going to affect me because I forgive you.
Right. Right.
Joe Schmo walks up on the street and you don't know him, and he starts ranting and raving on you. The first thing that most logical people would do is, well, he's crazy. You wouldn't take it personally. But if your mom does it, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, she's beat me down. She knows my inner soul. She knows everything bad about me and she's just said it. It just changes. Same words, same situation, different person. Changes everything. So forgiveness is something you have to learn, like we've said before, from every aspect. As a victim, as an experiencer, as somebody that is next to the experiencer, all those aspects. And this isn't graved on a curve. This is, you figure it out. You're going to come back down to earth until you figure this out. It may be one little lesson, and it may take you 20 lifetimes to learn it. Well, we only have 1 billion lessons left to learn in order to be anywhere near infinite mind, prime creator, or source of all that is. So, you might as well enjoy it while you're here. And if you just understand that every chakra imbalance can be balanced back with a tone, with a color, and with love, and allowing that negative energy to go and bringing in that positive energy, then you're going to be ahead of the curve in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember last year I was having some issues in my gut, and I think I had a lot of unforgiveness, anger that I had probably held on for years and years and years.
Right.
And
you're a Reiki master.
Yeah.
Right.
and you just suppress it, and you don't really notice it until it manifests itself physically.
Right.
And, one of the things you came to me and said, well, whose name is it? What'd you name it?
Right.
And I laughed, but I'm like, yeah, that's probably right. I've just held on to all this kind of stuff and let it go. And then after everything, it makes you very cognizant now of when someone does something to you or they say something. My gut is very sensitive.
Right.
I can feel it, and I'm like, oh, it's right there. Do not hold on to it.
Right.
Do not hold on to it. Let it go.
Years ago, there was a nurse at one of the nursing homes that I was medical director at, and we were talking, and she was talking about her belly fat. I'm like, well, the belly fat is just, it's the stress that you have trying to protect yourself, trying to protect that sacral chakra. Whether you've been harmed in your childhood or harmed now, you're trying to build that defense up to keep that chakra safe. And she coined a phrase which is genius. I was up there a couple weeks later, and I heard her say, "It isn't worth the belly fat. I'm not going to worry about that." And that's just so funny. It isn't worth the belly fat. It isn't worth the belly fat. I'm not going to let you get to me. So, there's those aspects of it too. But you got to have fun with it. If you don't have joy and fun and peace and love, more often than not, you're missing this human incarnation. We have all sorts of stuff that is really cool that can bring us closer together, right? Nothing evil about the internet, right? But there's a lot of evil on the internet. Nothing evil about TikTok, but there's a lot of things on TikTok that are brainless, and don't help us be our higher self. One of the things that I drill into my kids is, what are you watching? Is this helping you be a better human being? Is it helping you live to your higher self? To the point to where even my 10-year-old would go, "No, Dad, it's not. Get out of the way." So, and we all get there. I love to watch movies every once in a while, and they're not all making me my higher self. But as I get older, there's a lot less movies I can watch. It is hard for me to watch other people being hurt. It just hurts. It hurts me. And so again, those stimulus that you get from video, from the internet, from your computer, from all that, that's all energy. We're all connected. If Elon Musk doesn't have an interface between your brain and the computer, which I think they do now, he's probably an hour away from getting it. Cyborg are going to be real here pretty soon. So we got to be able to manage that energy, and you got to be able to choose with your base chakra, what is the right thing for me right now? What is right for me? And then with your sacral chakra, what is happening around me in my immediate circle? What is happening? And you'll see as we go up from the base chakra to the crown chakra that influence expands. Base chakra, we didn't talk about anybody else. We talked about yourself. We talked about muscles and tendons and blood and things like that. Base chakra, human, guttural energy. Sacral chakra, we're going out with family. We're going out with the people we hang out with the most. Those are the people that influence us the most. So as we go up, it becomes more ethereal. It becomes more expanded. But nevertheless, influences your physical body immensely.
Right, right. So what are some practical tips that you would give people to start trying to be mindful of that sacral chakra?
Be aware. Yeah, mindful. Be aware that my gut is very sensitive to what other people say and do. What other people think about me is none of my business.
And it may or may not be true what they think about you, right?
It's just none of my business. It's your thought. I can't control that.
Right.
I feel for people that their entire life is based on what somebody else thinks, such in the movie industry and radio and entertainment industry. It's all about what somebody writes about them. It's all about what other people think. How horrible of an existence is that to constantly be worried about what other people do? And I mean, and there are people out there that are amazing, but you still hear trash about them, you know? So, you know, as we go through this life and we try to understand that I can only allow you to influence me. You can't influence me. I can only allow that. I think that's one of the things to think about with the sacral chakra. The other thing is to understand that these close relationships, they know how to get my goat. They know how to turn me on and turn me off in a heartbeat. And it's not always going to be me picking up on that until it's too late, you know. But when you explode, at least in our family, we were a very loud family. So in our family, it's not uncommon, and I'm sure outsiders would look at this in disbelief. It's not uncommon for us to get very loud, very quickly, very opinionated, and very judgmental, and then turn around 2 seconds later without any apology or anything else and go, "So what do you want for dinner?" You know, it's just like, ah! And then, and I think it's just happened so long and generational with our family that it's just like, okay, I'm going to sit here. Dad's going to be done in a second, and then we're going to go fishing, you know? So, yeah, just trying to keep things in perspective and understanding that those around you, you know, can influence you if you allow it.
But you don't have to allow it.
You don't have to allow it.
And you remember who you are in God, in Creator.
Right.
And not what someone else says you are.
Right.
And who are your top 5 people around you? Are they positive people?
Right.
You know,
Gosh.
Are they encouragers?
Right.
Are they on your side?
So you're in a horrible spot in your life, and everybody around you wants to keep you there because they need you to be bad. They need you to be sick because it validates them, right? Man, that shift, understanding that shifts that energy. And then, you know, oh, I can't believe they just left me. I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they did that. You're waiting to get somebody else in that's positive.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I had a friend, she was talking to me yesterday. I wrote it down here. She called me the other day and she said, I just got this word. And I said, okay, what is it? And she said, the word is shift. And she said, and the definition that I feel it is a slight shift in your daily routine that will create big results.
Yeah, that's excellent. Again, the trajectory. If I'm flying an airplane from New York to LA and I'm off by 1/10 of 1 degree, I'm going to be nowhere near LA. If I'm going from New York to New Jersey and I'm off by 1/10 of a degree, I'm going to get there. So yeah, when the trajectory is long, like a lifetime, it is a small shift that can create huge changes later on. And the other thing is, once you make that shift, then it makes the other shift easier. And once you make the shift and you get positive feedback from everybody, well, you get positive feedback from those that are going to give you positive feedback, and you may get other people that leave your life.
Right.
Okay. So once you've made that shift, then all of a sudden the other shift, even if it's small, is monumental compared to the first shift from where you were. So you're shifting from this negativity, from this fear-based living that everything is going to go bad and everything is bad and I'm sick and I'm never going to get better, to, hey, there's hope. All you need is hope. That hope is that incremental shift in your future. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat a plant. I'm going to stop eating fried food. I'm going to stop eating processed food. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take 5 minutes a day and just not think of anything. Just sit there and look at a flower. Just sit there and look at a sunrise, a sunset, or something. I'm going to do that little shift, and those little shifts make huge changes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Schrenker. Another great talk that we've had today.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this episode of Mindful Medicine. And remember, you are love.